Hi, I'm Abe Madkour, publisher and executive editor of Sports Business Journal and Sports Business Daily. We are with you with SBJ All Access, our special guest, president of the Staples Center, Lee Zeidman. Lee, great to be in your building tonight.
Great to have you in our building. It's about time you actually came out to Southern California and experienced Staples Center. We're very excited.
Always gives me a hard time, never hesitates. Well, it's hard to believe, and I know you won't believe this, or you probably do believe this, 20 years, and you were the first full-time employee of Staples Center.
20 years ago, actually 21 years ago I was hired. I was working at the Forum at that time, working under Jeannie Buss. And the funny thing is, I was actually the Lakers representative on the early iterations of what we call Staples Center now. And then I got hired by the Los Angeles Kings after they were bought out of bankruptcy as the first full-time employee here at Staples Center. So I guess you could say that I've seen it all, and I pretty much have done it all as it relates to what goes here downtown Los Angeles.
Well, I know we're going to touch on a few of those things, but let's turn back the clock. You grew up in Detroit, or was born in Detroit?
Born in Detroit.
But you've been out here pretty much
55 years.
55 years. And rumor has it your first job was at a Taco Bell.
First job was at a Taco Bell.
So how did you make the segue from Taco Bell to like live event, entertainment, and hospitality?
Hey, first of all, I had no idea what I was doing. I wanted to be a baseball player, professional baseball player, but I weighed 150 pounds playing first base as a banjo hitter. There was not a lot of opportunities for a guy like that. So I realized I had to do something. I was going to be a marriage counselor. And then I realized that my grades were never going to be good enough. And so as I was getting my first degree at Cal State Northridge in psychology, I realized I can't do anything with this. I'm 21 years old. What am I going to do? I walked over to the recreation department, which was the precursor of sports management programs now. And so they had a commercial recreation degree. They set me up. I was passing out backpacks in the leisure studies office. And I said, this is not really what I want to do. And they said, we have a pub. Would you like to program it? That's how I got involved.
And you started programming shows or concerts?
Started programming concerts in the pub, and then from there, I took a job at UCLA working for Associated Students. I was there in 1984 for the Olympics and did a main stage entertainment festival during the entire Olympic run right outside the Olympic Village at UCLA, and thought, this is it. I want to work at UCLA the rest of my life and be the director of the student center there. Didn't happen. Got bypassed for that job.
Okay.
Took another job with UC Santa Barbara, and it was there I actually got my first break into big-time facility management because we had a 6,000-seat event center on campus.
And then you said at the Forum had, of course, an iconic building, had a lot of great memories there probably. And then
well, the funny thing is, when I was at UC Santa Barbara, my boss was never going to leave. We was working for the state of California, wages were frozen. I was never going to make enough money to even buy anything in Santa Barbara, so I started applying for everything and anything that had to do with operations, event management, coordination, whatever. And I got a call from a gentleman with Ogden Facility Management, which was one of the precursors of SMG, Spectacor, AEG facilities, and asked me if I'd be interested in coming down to LA and talking to him about it. And the job was overseeing 10 high-rises in downtown Los Angeles to cleaning crews. Wasn't what I was really interested in. And I read their brochure. At that time, they had the Kingdome, they had the Forum, they had the New Orleans Superdome at that time. And I told the guys, I said, this is what I really want to do. And they said, well, walk it over there for you. And they did. About 8 weeks later, they called me and I interviewed with them. And I said, well, what is the job? And they said, it's Director of Operations at the Forum. Are you interested? And this was 1988. Lakers were on a three-peat run. And I said, I grew up going to the Forum. Of course I'm interested. How many people are you interviewing? And they said, you're the only one. And I said, the only way that I miss out on this opportunity is I mess it up. And they said, we want you to come back down and talk to a guy by the name of Doug Logan.
Oh, sure.
You may know Doug Logan, who was in the business a lot of years, involved in a lot of different ventures, and I had to meet him. So I met him, and we sat down and talked. And the first thing out of his mouth was, you're one of 3 candidates. And I said, well, how did that happen?
Right.
One of 3 candidates. And we talked a little bit more small talk. He said, I'm looking for somebody that's going to be heavily involved in sports transactions, can chart certain things that it relates to venues and those type of things. I'm not saying you're not the guy, but you're one of 3 right now. The other 2 have MBAs, one out of Florida, one out of Arizona. So I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to now tell everybody that I don't think I'm going to get this job? After I told him a week ago, I got this job. So I continue the conversation, and he says, well, would you be interested in working at one of our other smaller venues? And I said, well, it depends on where it is, because I really don't want to leave Southern California. We've got one in Des Moines, Iowa. We've got one in Las Cruces, New Mexico. We could see you starting out there and working your way back to California. I said, well, I don't know. I'd have to really give that some thought. And so we had some more small talk, and long story short, conversation was over, and he said, listen, I always like to let a candidate ask me a question before they leave, because you're going to probably get in your car, and this is what I tell young kids, young students as they want to get into business,
Right.
ask questions. So he said, is there anything you want to ask me before you get in the car and leave? I'm not going to tell you don't get the job, but I'm telling you I got a couple strong candidates. And I looked at him and I said, I thought this was for a director of operations position. It sounds like you're looking for a director of finance. Looked back down on my resume, looks up at me, goes, oh my gosh, I was interviewing for the wrong job.
Oh my God, is that right?
Exactly. And he goes, of course you're qualified for this. I will send it on to Claire Rothman, who was, one of the very first, women general managers of venues back in the day, and with my recommendation.
There you go.
I left, came back to the forum 1 week later, hired on the spot, and the rest is history.
It is history, and that's a great story. And then you come here, 1998, roughly?
98,
Yep.
98.
And what makes this building so special in your mind?
In my mind, this is what makes it so special. First of all, it's three things, really. It was a great design. MBBJ did a great design. It's a very iconic design. Second, we selected the best, at that time, back in 99, the best systems to operate a venue and the best equipment to operate a venue. Because you have to understand, at that time, we were looking at having to do doubleheader conversions at the drop of a hat, because we had three major tenants here, two NBA teams and an NHL team. So we were going to do a lot of doubleheaders. So we needed to make sure we had the best equipment. The third thing is we needed to hire a staff that bought into our management philosophy and understood our vision and what we were trying to do here. Because, people were going to see the Lakers and the Kings for 31 years at that time at the Forum. Nobody came downtown.
No.
There was nothing around here. And then I tell people, then the fourth thing that makes it such an iconic venue is you have your prime tenant win 3 world championships the first 3 years, and it puts you on the map pretty quickly.
Is that what it was when you think of it? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there's another modern day venue that has their prime tenant win 3 world championships in the first 3 years of operation.
So talk about great timing. You mentioned the downtown, and I've been coming here for a number of years, but you've been here all 20 years to see the development around LA Live and what LA Live has spurred in terms of the downtown growth. Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable, and that's because of a great vision by our owner, Mr. Phil Anschutz, and the men and women that work here, and the men and women that actually bought into that vision as well. When we opened up in 1999, almost 20 years now, we had parking lots all around us.
Right.
There was nothing here, and we had to get people to come downtown, and we had to get people to feel safe coming downtown.
A little unsafe at that time.
It was
right?
terrible.
Yeah,
it was terrible in and around here. And so I believe, and others believe the same thing within our organization, that it was the success of Staples Center, because it was never guaranteed to be as successful as it is, because again, you had to bring all those people who had been going to the Forum for 31 years downtown, and they never came downtown. I believe it was the success of Staples Center that revitalized downtown Los Angeles and spurred the development.
Talking about that development, as you go into the next 20 years, there used to be the shelf life of an arena was 30 years, roughly?
Pretty much. And if you look at now what's happening,
do you think it's still 30 years, or is it shorter?
I think it's shorter now.
Yeah.
But then again, you know what? There are so many venues being built, and I'm not talking about this size of a venue. There are a lot of other venues being built as well. We're in a crowded marketplace here. But I think that as the men and women that are coming here tonight, and men and women that come to this venue, and the families and the kids, you walk around this venue, and you'd be hard pressed to say, this is 20 years old.
No, the bones are, it looks great. The bones are great. It flows great.
And I think that's two things, while I believe that is true, because I've had an ownership group and a president and CEO, and Dan Beckerman and Phil Anschutz, the owner, who've allowed me the opportunity to put capital expenditures every year into the building. Our philosophy has been you don't spend $450 million on a building and never do anything to it. So we've been able to keep it fresh from a technology standpoint and fresh from a maintenance standpoint. And that's a tribute to the men and women who actually maintain the building.
As we think about facilities of the future and finish up here, Lee, what, in your mind, you're so close to the facility world, what will the facility of the future look like in your...
First of all, is there going to be a facility of the future? Technology, in my opinion, is just coming on so rapidly. In 5-6 years, what are we all going to be doing? How are we going to be getting to these facilities? Are they going to be driverless cars? Are we going to be flying in drones to get to them? That said, I always believe that there's going to be the need for facilities, because you can't duplicate the live experience. Granted, we all love being at home because we can multitask and we can do whatever we want. And you're looking at a guy who bought the first 3D TV with the 3D glasses, and where's that now?
I could see that.
If I had the money for what I spent on that now, and that was here in a heartbeat, and that was gone in a heartbeat. So as you talk about the various trends, I think that some of the things that are out there that we strive to do, and I'm not telling anything that anybody else out there doesn't know, is, you're looking for the communal experiences.
Yep.
Not only for the millennials, but for people of our genre, our demographic, and families. So you're looking at that. You want to make it hospitality driven. You want to give them experiences, and you want to come up with ways to make it easily to get from purchasing the ticket, to get to the parking lot, to get through the doors, to get to the concession stands, to get to the merch stands, and into your seat without wasting an hour and a half.
And to get home.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the job of a venue operator. So when you talk about some of those things that are out there that are going to allow you to do that, we're working with probably 3 major technology companies right now that I believe are going to give us the tools that are going to allow us to take that fan experience from the minute they get on our property into our building until they get in the car to go home.
And to finish up, you talked about the live event experience. You've seen a lot of great live events here. Give us a couple that really stand out in your memory bank.
Listen, as I told you earlier before we got on camera, I mean, between here and the Forum, I think I've attended 5,400 live events, just in the buildings that I worked at. And so to try to pinpoint what is the best one, and I've been fortunate. I've been part of 9 NBA finals, of which the team has won 5, 3 Stanley Cup finals, of which the team has won 2, 5 WNBA championships, of which the team has won 3. We've hosted 5 All-Star games between the NBA.
10 championships, wow.
And so, to pick one,
Yeah.
it's pretty tough. But I will tell you, the game that I think defined a lot of things, and I was standing in the corner back there by the Bud Light sign there, and the Delta sign, where I stand for every event. And we figured it out during the Clippers playoffs that if you think back on the 20 plus years I've been here, 10 and a half of those years I've been standing in that corner of my life. That said, I think the first playoff series, or the Western Conference Finals against Portland, the year Shaq made the dunk, took the alley-oop from Kobe, was running down the court with his hand up. Lakers came back from a 14-point deficit with 10 minutes to go.
Fourth quarter.
And that took us to the championship. I was
you.
looking at Tim Harris, and I was saying, man, so close in the first year to getting to the NBA Finals. Because we had both tasted it before at the Forum, but so close in a brand new building. And then they came back, they beat Portland, and they beat Indiana in the finals, and it was phenomenal. But I've seen 18 out of the last 20 Grammys, music's biggest night.
I was going to say concerts as well.
Every major artist here. But it's changed over the 20 years. Tremendous amount of competitors here now.
Yeah.
There's 7 or 8 stadiums. There's probably 4 or 5 mid-range venues. By that I mean 7,000 seaters. There's 3 arenas within our area here, and there's another arena potentially on the books for 5 years now. So there's a lot of competition. So you have to continually to refresh. You have to continually rebrand and reimage your venue, and you have to understand that I don't control everything. I actually work for 4 teams,
right.
2 leagues, various promoters, because we don't control everything. I don't control what happens on the ice, on the court, or on the stage, but I do control the experience when you get into the building.
And that's what you try to just always maximize and improve. Last question. A lot of young people would probably love your job to oversee and be president of one of the most global, iconic venues. What's your advice to young people who want your gig?
Listen, I get an opportunity to always go back and speak at universities and
Right.
colleges. I'm going to actually Ann Arbor this weekend to speak. You were supposed to be there.
Long story.
That it is.
Yeah.
So I'm going back to University of Michigan to talk about the fan experience. But what I tell people is, and this is exactly what I did, I said, first of all, I didn't have the sports administration programs and the sports management programs that are in the colleges and universities now. I had to kind of find my own way. Mm-hmm. But I preach, informational interviews. Get to the people you want to talk to. Figure out, do you want to be in PR? Do you want to be in communications? Do you want to be in operations? Do you want to work for a team? Do you want to work for a venue? Do you want to work for a league? Because while people say, well, there's not a lot of jobs in the industry, there is. When you think about all the teams and all the leagues and all the venues and everything, you just have to figure out where you want to go and what you want to be. Once you figure that out to a certain extent and you get those interviews and you get that first job, become a sponge and suck up everything you can from everybody you get an opportunity to work with. Because if you're anything like our company or our building, we promote from within.
Right.
And the more you know and the more you are engaged in, the more valuable you become. And then the last thing I tell people is ask questions. And a lot of people, when I ask questions, a lot of people get intimidated who work with me and work for me. And I'm not asking questions to trip people up or to put them on the defensive. I'm asking them questions to re-educate myself, because there are 2 things. I'm 64 years old right right now, but I'm really 85 in arena years. And I believe you can teach an old dog new tricks. And I'm an old dog, and I'm looking to learn every day.
Well, fantastic. Lee Zeidman, president of the Staples Center. Thanks a lot for having us. And we look forward to seeing your building. And best of luck as you turn 20 at this great, great venue.
You know what, though? We do have 2 of the top NBA teams
It's going to be an exciting year.
in the league this year. We have 4 of the top 7 players. And so who knows? This could be the year we get the hallway series for the Western Conference Finals, and then we get the NBA Finals here again.
Are you telling all our viewers to come to LA and see the action here?
I'm telling everybody, come here. You know what? We built a true destination. If you look across the street, I tell people you don't need wheels. You come to the hotel, 19 restaurants, 4 music venues. You got it all right here.
It's not a bad JW Marriott either.
No, it's not.
No, but great to be with you. Have a fantastic evening.
Thank you.
All right, Lee Zeidman.